So I'm going to go through how to cut short graduation. So we're looking at, you know, your typical older ladies cut, or maybe a pixie cut. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to section this off. Different ways to section it. Some people like to cut bottom up, other people like to cut top down. We're going to cut top down today, so we're going to bring up our layer so that you can actually decide exactly what length it is that you want to start with, so it's easy for you to follow. Okay, so we're going to start off and we are going to create what is called a profile guide. We're going to take a section across the top of the head. The width will depend on the density of the hair, how much hair you can handle in your hands, etc. So you're going to come back to about the round of the head, okay? So around the sort of crown area. And I'm going to section that off. As one section. Section that off, okay? Take her off in a second. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go from ear to ear. So we're creating a T section across the top. So I've got the length across the top, and now I've got the sides of the hair sectioned off. Same the other side. Let me turn it around for you. So the next section I'm going to get is I'm going to draw a section from ear to ear, okay? So from ear, put your finger in, hold that section there, meet it up in the middle. Bear with me if you can't see me, I'll turn the head as I go so you can see where we're at. This training head's a little bit tricky because it's been cut previously, so there's already shorter layers in here, just making it difficult for me to be able to section off. Okay, and so now what we're left with is everything underneath this occipital bone. So, like I said, some people will start at the bottom and they'll work their way up. If somebody's hair is a bit longer, you might want to go in and cut that shorter to start off with, so you've got a base guide, okay? So if somebody's got their hair down to here and you're restyling it, after you've sectioned it off, I would recommend just going in and taking your length, because then you just got a little bit more control over the hair. So you can start from bottom up or you can start from top down, completely up to you. Today I'm going to come top down because I think you'll find that a little bit easier to be able to follow and to understand, okay? So I'm going to take my first section out of this top and I'm going to decide how long I want this layer to be. So I'm going to take a little bit from the back, on the back of this section that is, and ask my client, how long do you want this to be? Good way of being able to tell what length, bear with me, I'll just go and grab a brush. Is ask them what size brush they use, okay? So if we are using a brush of this size, we're going to put it in at the base, wrap the hair around until the hair completely wraps around, and then you can sort of see what length you're going to be cutting. So I'm going to work from the side because I think you'll be able to see a little bit better. So we've decided our length. I'm not going to take this one too short because she's a training head. And I've now created something that I can use as a guide, okay? I'm now going to pick up this section. I've got that little back bit to use as my guide, just here. And I'm just going to cut this whole profile guide on this length. If you wanted it a little bit longer on the front, you can bring your hand back a little bit. I will recommend leaving the fringe out, and we'll cut that last. We don't want to end up making the fringe too short because we've connected it to the top. Okay, but for this particular cut, I'm just going to take it relatively straight from the back to the front. Okay, so I've now got what we call a profile guide across the top that I can use to now get the length into the sides. So this cut, this short cut, is a round layer or a uniform layer cut. So we're going to follow the head shape. So I've now got my guide on the top, and I'm going to follow my head shape round. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of the hair from the side. I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to put my comb on the head to make sure that it's flat, because that isn't 90 degrees, nor is that. My comb will sit flat onto the scalp, onto the head, if I'm at 90 degrees. So check your angle and follow around with your cut. Keep your sections nice and neat. Keep control of the hair that's in your hand. So I'm following the head shape, okay? If you find that your hair is too much and you're picking up more of the section, just twist it away so you can see what you're working with. Straight out from the head, 90 degrees, and follow this down. And then we take a little bit from this section here. So it's going to be a travelling guide. We're going to move. We're going to take a little bit from what we've just cut and add that to another section and use that as our guide. And we've still got our guide at the top that we're going to bring down. Okay. Here's my guide. We've got a little bit from the hair behind, so we can see that I'm cutting the same length as the last section. And I'm just going to keep following this head shape down. If at any point you're not sure, put your comb onto the head and check your angle, okay? And keep just following down. Alright. Next section. And like I said, you know, these widths of these sections will depend on the density of the hair. Sometimes they have to be a little bit finer sections if somebody's got more hair. Sometimes you can get away with it being a little bit bigger. But I'm literally just cutting what falls over my guide. I think when people start at the back of the head, by the time they get to the top, they're not sure what length and what angle they need to be coming at. So I find by starting on this T section first, just gives me more control, just lets me really be able to see the length that is the important bit. I believe the top of the hair. If somebody is going to be having, curl or even spiky sort of textured looks on the top, that length on the top is what makes somebody feel that their hair is too long or too short. So we can prejudge that. We're not cutting blind by coming top down. When we come bottom up, we're sort of guessing the length that is going to be at the top, depending on the angles that we follow up the head for, when we're cutting. Okay. Same the other side. So again, take a little bit from the top, across the top of the head. To start our guide. Check my angle. Follow the head shape round. And I'm cutting this in relatively big sections because obviously I'm cutting on a training head. On a client, I would recommend you take nice small sections and keep control. Keep moving forward, a little bit from behind. Follow your guide all the way down to the length. Last bit. Okay, so what we're going to do, so I'm just going to check by pulling these sections up across the top of the head, a little bit wider than what I was previously, and cross-checking my cut and making sure that everything is relatively similar in length. If there's any little bits, you can adjust it now, okay? So we have cut this top to the desired length and the sides. What you're going to do now is you're going to go in and you're going to cut this up over the ear on these side sections if that's what she wants, or just down onto the ear. You ask your client. So I've cut the internal layers first by doing this and then this, following the head shape. Now we're going to go in and we're going to cut this length, okay? So if this hair is quite thick, you can subsection it. Take some hair into smaller sections so you can see what you're doing and you've got more control. Obviously on Doll's head it's much easier to do because she hasn't got ears in the way. So we're going to just come in and we're just going to follow that ear round. And take some of that length. Now don't worry too much at this stage about the length at the back because we haven't cut that yet, okay? And again, on a live client, we have an ear that we have to deal with. So drop the rest down and do the same. Hold it with your comb or you can hold their ear out of the way if you prefer. By holding it down, if I show you on mine, holding it down with your finger, and then you'll be able to cut up, almost to like a V, because she hasn't got a real ear. Don't need to do that. Same the other side. So So we're going to take a small piece of hair on the bottom, that section, so I can see the ear clearly and I can create a guide. On this side, I cut from the ear down. On the other side, we're going to have to cut from this point up. Okay, so you want to get yourself a visual of roughly where your length has started, and you're looking at just on your cheekbone. We can sort her head a little bit. Hold it still. And cut up to the point on her ear. You can turn your hand round and come back in this way if you want to. We're going to check where we're at on her ears. I know you can't see me this side, but you're just going to bear with me on that. Okay. So we're going to cut up to the point this way and up to the point this way. Obviously, if your ear is in the way, we can flap that down. We're going to turn it round. We're going to check our length. And I've got very, very slightly longer this side, so we're just going to adjust that. Okay. So what have we done? We have cut the top, we have cut the sides, and we've cut up around the ear. What we're now going to do, I just need to drop that bit back down, sorry. What we're now going to do is start cutting the back of the head, okay? So we have this piece of hair here, this top we've already cut. We have this section here that we're now going to connect. So I'm going to take a piece of the hair from the top, section it off, make sure you can clearly see where you're going. I'm going to take a piece from my guide where I cut from the top. It's going to come out 90 degrees. And we're going to follow this head shape round a little bit. Okay, so all this underneath has actually already been cut shorter. If it wasn't, you can just continue down. Hopefully you would have this subsectioned off at the bottom because we'll cut that in a little bit shorter. So I've cut a pie section and I'm going to follow this head shape round, connecting the top to the back. 90 degrees, straight out from the head, straight out from the head. Another piece of hair, travel a little bit further. And follow down the back of the head. And please remember, guys, you know, the neater your sections are, the more control you're going to have on the hair. So I'm going to walk around the head a little bit. And I make sure the sides of my hair and the back will connect nicely. I'm over directing it back a little bit towards me at the moment for the sake of the camera, but you're going to follow the head, walk around the head and follow that head shape round. Other side. So I will follow round. Remember, your arms and your body shape will change. That's absolutely fine. Work with how you're comfortable. Okay, a little bit more of a pie section, moving around this head, pivoting off this top point. So I'm club cutting this, I'm not point cutting. You can point cut, it takes a little bit longer to do that, but it does give you a softer effect, especially if someone's hair is a little bit thicker. If someone's hair, you know, an older lady is fine, you're better off club cutting it, because straight club cut lines make it appear heavier, make it look like we've got more weight. Okay. So we're just checking everything connects. So what we've now done is we've done the top, we've done the two sides, and we've just connected the back, okay, following the head shape round. What we haven't done is this section underneath here. If their hair was a bit longer, now you're going to go in and you're going to taper that in. You might have pre-cut a little bit of that length, that is completely up to you. This one's already had her hair cut previously, so it's already quite short underneath. So I'm going to put her head back straight if I can and tilt it forward a little bit, which now gives me some access into the bottom. So the same, we'll go back down this middle section. We're now going to connect this last bit we cut to this bit. Like I said, there's not going to be too much going on here because she's already quite short. But I'm just going to be connecting these two things together. You may find there's some weight in these corners that you want to take off. Okay. Okay. Now the last thing I do is I will now come down and I will cut this corner so it sits a little bit nicer. You might want to hold it with your hand, back of your comb, front of your comb, whatever you want to do. Push your comb up high, turn your hand round and just follow down and take any excess out of the corners that you want to take away. Or you might want to come in and point cut, whichever is easier for you, okay? Whatever you decide. Same the other side. Now the other side is a little bit easier for me to cut, just because of the angle. And I've already taken some of this out, so do I want to back cut or do I want to hold it and point cut onto the skin? That completely depends on you and your client and the style, but look how nice that sort of just pushes back. Okay, so you can see, let's give a nice, just short type pixie cut. We can adjust anything around the ears that we want to. I said these are quite challenging to cut on because obviously it's plastic with a solid ear. If you've got too much weight here, you might want to decide to pick this up and point cut, making sure that that line to that line joins nicely. There's no rounded weight or anything in the middle. Turn around again. Same thing, I'm going to check the weight. See how there's quite a lot of heavy weight here on this corner? I'm just going to come in and cut that together a little bit just so it sits a little bit smoother without so much weight. We can make lots of adjustments once the haircut is dry and we can see where there's any weight or anything we need to remove. But right now all you're doing is making sure that everything connects really nicely from the length into the internal layers, okay? So after you've done that, that is when I would then come back and do the fringe. Bring down your fringe. You can either cut this in your fingers, or you can put your comb underneath the section, bring it down, cut the fringe. If it's a side fringe, let's say it's going this way, we're going to cut it from this side. If we're cutting a side fringe, we're going to come over to the shortest side. Take the corner of that out and bring everything over to you on the shortest side, okay? You're probably not going to get much of a side fringe up here because it's already quite short. But we would have taken it over to the other side. If you're doing a standard fringe, generally we take a triangle or a semicircle across here, but you never want to come out any wider than the eyebrows. Okay? And then you decide how you want to blow dry this hair, depending on your client's needs. You might want to bring this forward, point cut, taper the side. You might decide that that's quite heavy there and you're going to razor that front edge. All of those are finishing details, but this is your basic short layer, short graduation, short pixie cut, old lady haircut, whatever you want it to be. All right, so hopefully that helps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blow dry it. I'll start the video now. I'll blow dry it and then I'll give you another, after pic of what it looked like once I blow dried it into shape. All right? See you later.